So today we are carrying on with Kripke on the causal theory of reference, and we'll look more at Kripke on Wednesday. There won't be any lecture on Friday this week, and no office hours this week, and there won't be any lecture on Monday. I'm sorry about that, but I'm needed elsewhere. If you want to get on with things in the meantime, then and what's the basic thing you have to do? You do the reading. If you want to read more, what I would recommend is you could either try and get hold of Naming a Necessity. There's a book, Naming a Necessity, from which we're looking at some extracts here. You might try and look at the whole book. Or else, and this would be my inclination if I was you, I just read ahead in the reader, read the Putnam, and particularly Evans's article, The Causal Theory of Names, which is coming up next, part 1. That's a very long, rich article. At this point, you should be able to read the Evans and make sense of it. There will be slow reading, and it's really a book, that article. There's much more in it than we'll manage to cover in the lecture. So if I was you and you want to get on in the meantime, I'd look at the Evans. Yep. Sorry? Oh, by Kripke, Naming a Necessity. Yeah. So the Naming a Necessity in the reader is an extract from a longer book, also by Saul Kripke, if you see what I mean, called Naming a Necessity. I honestly don't know if you'll have it in the bookstore. You would certainly be able to pick it up from Amazon, but it's probably the single most influential book in analytical philosophy since the war. There should be copies around. I haven't checked in the bookstore, but they'd be quite likely to have it, I should think. Yeah. Okay. So today I want to look at, as you'll see, Kripke has an attack on the description theory of names. Last time we looked at one kind of attack he has, this thing about rigid designators and flexible designators. He also has a more kind of straight down the line attack on description theories, like the theories of Frege and Searle. I'll begin by looking at that. And then we move on to his positive picture as to how reference is fixed. And I will wrap up by looking at what happens to Frege's puzzle about informative identities on Kripke's picture. It turns out, we'll see that the puzzle of informative identities is actually harder on Kripke's picture than it was on Frege's. It doesn't go away, that puzzle about informative identities. You just see more and more how difficult it really is. But let's start out with the question about how the descriptions are properly, how the references are properly fixed. I mean, that was our basic question in this class. How do signs get hooked up to the world? And all we've been doing so far is really isolating names as a basic contact point between language and the world. And the last time we were looking at how do names and descriptions refer in lots of different possible worlds? And the argument was names keep their reference from world to world, descriptions vary their reference from world to world. So to get that argument moving, you have to be looking at what's going on when you're talking about different possibilities. But the argument of Kripke that we're looking at today is about just about what goes on in the actual world. If you take a name like Gödel and look at who that name refers to in the actual world, how does that get sorted out? How does it come about if we just think about all the ordinary concrete objects, that the name refers to this concrete object rather than any other? Well, on a Frege-Searle kind of view, the way it works is you have a cluster of descriptions associated with the name. You might call it the dossier, the file, what you have on Gödel, and that's what fixes the reference of the name. There are all these descriptive characteristics of Gödel, like the person who discovered the incompleteness of arithmetic, the great mathematical Platonist, the refuter of logicism, whatever your favourite description of Gödel is, put them all into the cluster, and whatever best fits that, that's who the name refers to. So the cluster of descriptions associated with the sign, that's how the reference of the name gets fixed. And it's consistent with Searle's picture. I mean, Searle was quite explicit about this, that when you've got a bag of descriptions associated with a name, then some descriptions might get more weight than others. There might be some indeterminacy as to just how many of those descriptions an object has to match to be the one you're referring to. And there might be some indeterminacy about what's in the bag in the first place. But still in all, often enough, that cluster of descriptions would single out a unique object. Kripke's argument is that's not the way it works. If you just look at what goes on in our ordinary use of language, the descriptions we actually associate with the names don't, in fact, fix their references. So take it that Gödel has, suppose that what we've got is that the key description associated with the name Gödel is the person who discovered the incompleteness of arithmetic. Well, it could turn out, could it not, that someone else actually discovered the incompleteness of arithmetic, and that Gödel is actually a somewhat shady character. What happened is some industrious undergraduate, some brilliant industrious undergraduate, you know the type, discovered the incompleteness of arithmetic. Gödel, a somewhat shady professor, on the lookout for academic celebrity, stole the credit, took the work, did something to shut the student up, and became famous as the person who discovered the incompleteness of arithmetic. In that case, we've got Gödel, and we've got his reference fixer is the description, the person who discovered the incompleteness of arithmetic. But what would you actually say happened in this case? Would you say, well, who matches this description? Is it the professor or is it the student? The student matches the description. But when we use the name Gödel, are we referring to the professor or the student? The professor. So the person we're referring to is not the person that matches the description associated with the name. And it's a very simple case. I'm sure you all have stories like that yourselves, right? Not in this class, but similar classes. And this is Kripke working through the example. Suppose that Gödel was not, in fact, the author of this theorem. A man named Schmidt, whose body was found in Vienna under mysterious circumstances many years ago, actually did the work in question. His friend Gödel somehow got hold of the manuscript, and it was thereafter attributed to Gödel. That could happen, right? No contradiction in it. And then the name Gödel is not referring to the person who matches the description. So the Searle theory is not right. I mean, Kripke says, look, think about what descriptions people actually associate with the names they use. And if you look at what most people think Einstein did, you might well find most people think Einstein was the inventor of the atomic bomb. Does the name Einstein therefore refer to the person who actually did invent the atomic bomb? No, it does not. Right? I mean, actually, I was once saying Cicero Tully. I don't know anything about Cicero and Tully except they're a couple of Greeks. And someone said no, they're actually Romans. I mean, even that was wrong. I mean, many of the names we use, we don't actually know very much about the people. Yeah, Stephen Hawking, famous chemist. Right? No? Epistemologist, right? Cosmologist, okay. I would still refer to Hawking when I said that, right? The descriptions are all wrong. Exactly, right. The descriptions you associate with a name can be all wrong. You're still referring to that thing. Yeah. And what goes on in these kind of cases is that what goes on in these cases is that there is someone really around who steals the credit, who does all this stuff, and it's because of them that we use the descriptions we do, but they don't actually match the description. If I tell you I've won a Nobel Prize, and you're all suitably impressed by this, and I do it suitably convincingly, right? Then you may say, Campbell, the philosopher in the department who won that Nobel Prize, isn't that great? Right? Now, just between us, by some strange anomaly, that has not yet happened. But in that case, I would be the one who made you think there was such a person. That would be right, yeah? But the description doesn't actually match me. You're still referring to me. Yeah? There's just one other example. Once you get the hang of this kind of example, you can generate them indefinitely yourself. One other case, people sometimes say Shakespeare didn't write any of those famous plays. Those famous plays were actually written by Francis Bacon. Now, someone who says that is saying, when we mention Shakespeare, we're not talking about the man who actually wrote the plays, that was Bacon. We're really talking about the person who stole the credit for the plays. But if Searle is right, Shakespeare is whoever did actually write most of those plays. And so if Shakespeare is just a name for whoever wrote most of those plays, then when I put forward the Bacon hypothesis, what I'm saying is really that Bacon is Shakespeare. That's a weird way to put it, right? That's not what you're saying when you say that Shakespeare didn't write the plays. You're saying that Bacon wrote the plays. You're not saying Bacon turned out to have been Shakespeare. That would be a different scenario. It's also possible that Bacon is Shakespeare, I agree. But that's a different scenario to the one where there are two people. Right? Okay, thank you for that. Okay, so this is a very simple argument Kripke has, but I think it's very powerful. If you just think, in fact, what descriptions we do associate with the names we use, it's obviously possible that the thing that matches those descriptions best is not the thing we're referring to when we use a name. Okay? That plain enough? Is that convincing? Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That's true, but I guess the idea is that in some cases there might not be very much in the cluster anyhow, right? I think that's true of Gödel. And insofar as people have heard of Gödel, usually pretty much all they know about them, unless they're specialists, is that this was the discovery of that theorem. Yeah. But couldn't you do that? I mean, take the name Bill Clinton. Maybe none of what was thought about Bill Clinton was right. Yeah, he was never president. He never met Monica Lewinsky. He was never elected president. I mean, he never actually took the oath. Right? That was all dubbed and staged. Some actor took the oath. Right? So he was never actually correctly sworn in as president. He never actually became president by the rules. You have a description of what he looks like, but maybe that's all done by cosmetics and clever tricks with mirrors and body doubles. He didn't really look like that. You see him at night, boy. It's a very different story. He never actually met anyone called Monica. None of that was right. You can imagine all that. I mean, the story becomes a bit just in case you've just suddenly woken up. I'm not telling you that this is actually how it happened, right? This is just an example, right? But so the story gets a bit tortured as you go on, yeah. But that's all that's happening. It's just getting a bit tortured. It may seem a bit strange, but it makes about as much sense as most of what I say. If you see what I mean, it still makes perfect sense, yeah. And still, we're talking about that man, even if most of what is commonly believed about him is false. Well, as you went on, you would be replacing it with other descriptions. That's right. But you didn't know those descriptions to begin with. But you were nonetheless referring to the person who best. You were referring to the person those descriptions match, even though you had no idea they were there. Is that convincing? You have all these descriptions associated with it. If I say, you don't know me, none of you really know me, right? That kind of remark makes perfect sense, right? It could really be true. You're also managing to refer to me perfectly fine. Yeah? Well, you have to say, we've got the cluster, and enough of the cluster is always right to single you out uniquely. But you don't know that. I mean, that's the whole thing about these examples. It would be tortured, it would take a while to explain how this could happen, but I can tell you a story in which virtually everything you think about me is false. He's not really a professor. That's easy. I can do that, right? Just take the first things, right, there's work to do. You can do that. You're still referring to me. 1, 2, yeah, yeah. Right, but remember that Searle's theory says is whoever best fits the descriptions in the cluster, that's who it refers to. Yes. The same thing. That's very interesting. That's not actually how Searle puts the theory. Searle says, how does a name get hooked up to the object? Well, by being associated with the cluster of descriptions, and it's whatever matches what's in the cluster of descriptions. That is Searle's theory. Now you're giving a different theory. You're saying it doesn't matter who best matches the cluster of descriptions. Yeah? The important thing is whether your cluster of descriptions is the same as mine. Then we know we're talking about the same thing. But how the name gets hooked up to that object is not necessarily as whoever best matches the cluster of descriptions. That's your take. Yes. First of all, I promise you said we won't do that legal. That's not the approach. But the thing is, the way you're putting it presupposes that the name has got hooked up to the object somehow, but not by way of the cluster of descriptions. No, it's matching the cluster of descriptions. Yeah. And you haven't said how that is. The name is hooked up to the object. Now, Searle didn't be addressing that question. You're not actually addressing the question. You're doing something interesting, but something different. It's saying, suppose the name is hooked up to the object. How do I know that you and I are using the same thing? That's a different question. I have no idea who's first. You're right about that. Yeah. Well, how does it work? I mean, we have to be able to refer to things in the first place, right? Before we can say, no, we think those descriptions are true of it. But how do we do that? Right, that's right. So the use of the name is coming first, before we consider what's going on with the descriptions. And then there are descriptions we believe to be true of the thing in the name. But how did the name get onto the tracks in the first place? I agree, what you're saying is very plausible, right? But it's just that there's a question now that you have to address, which is how did we get that name hooked up to the object in order that we could then form all these beliefs about what descriptions the name thing means. That's one theory. You can call that the placard theory, right? Everybody holds up a placard saying my name is like a startup term mixer. Everyone is a badge, yeah. That'd be one theory, yeah. I mean, it's not actually right, okay, because we don't all wear badges, in fact, except the mixers. But that's the kind of thing. That's not a description theory. That's a placard theory. It's a different theory. Yeah. If that's right, the Searle is wrong. Okay, go ahead. You want to know how? No? It's gone away? Your question, okay. Okay. Right. Front. Oh, I see. Right. Okay. Right. Right. I'm not exactly sure. I'm not completely sure I followed all that. But if I did, then the point you're making is suppose you've got the name Campbell and you've got this description. Right? They can come apart. Yeah. The name, who the name picks out is one thing, and who the description best matches is another thing. Yeah. That's Kripke's point. Yeah. That's a concise way of putting Kripke's point. And then the next question is: so how does the name get hooked up to the object, if not by way of the description? Yeah. Yeah. Very good. On that note, hold that thought and let's move on to looking at Kripke's own positive picture. Yeah. So I want to suggest, just before looking at what Kripke actually says, an analogy. Suppose you consider the way photographs work. Here is a photograph of two simple geese. Are they geese? Or ducks? Oh, geese. Okay, I was thinking I wasn't very sure if they were geese or ducks. Okay, so I put it to you that here we have two simple geese. Now this photograph is, let's consider the one in the front. Now this photograph is a photograph of a particular goose, right? So there's a thing out here, the goose, and here we have it in the photograph. Now, which goose is this a photograph of? You can raise that question. It's kind of an analogy with the question, how does a sign refer to a particular object? What makes the photograph a photograph of a particular goose? Now, one answer is, actually when I took this to the Civic Centre in San Rafael, where just beyond the camera here, about 5,000 further geese, all indistinguishable from this one, to my eye anyway. And it really is 5,000, it's feeding the Ducks California style. This gigantic formation. Now, if you look at this picture here, this individual goose might say, that is not a very good snapshot of me. It is not a good likeness. In fact, it doesn't look like me at all. It looks much more like my cousin Ermentrude over here. I mean, that happens with people the whole time, right? You get a photograph taken of you, you think, my God, that doesn't look like me. I don't know what that looks like. Maybe there's a person somewhere on the planet that does look like, in which case they have my heartfelt sympathy, but it doesn't look like me, right? I can't be the only person that has that experience, right? Okay, so then you say, okay, well, it's a photograph of this duck, all right, but that duck doesn't match the photograph. It's not a good likeness of that duck. So if someone takes a snapshot of you,